Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming on a Sunday evening for this lecture. We were expecting a bigger audience, but nevertheless, we will start right away. So, as per, this is the Theosophical Society and we have a protocol. We start all our proceedings with a universal prayer. It's a beautiful prayer. It has very deep meaning. So I would expect some of our members. Let's not wait. I'll lead the prayer. So I'll just recite the prayer and you arise and just repeat after me. It's short and sweet. Okay, Satrajit is here. Satrajit, please come and lead the universal prayer.
So we will henceforth say our universal prayer as prayed by Avik. Please repeat after me. O hidden light vibrating in every atom. O hidden light shining in every creature. O hidden love embracing all in oneness. May each who feel himself as one with Thee know he is also one with every other. Please maintain 1 minute of meditative silence. Okay. So, without further delay, I would like to hand over the mic to our anchor, Avik. Avik, please come.
Now I would request our speaker of the evening, Baisakhi Saha, to just come forward. We would like to felicitate her in a very small way, but it's a small gesture. So you can be there. I mean, once for the talk you come. So I'll ask Sister Madhusri to welcome her with the Uttari. Then I would call upon Sister Thakurta to felicitate her with a flower bouquet. And some sweets. So now we are kind of good to go. So Baisakhi, please come onto the stage. I would just like to introduce the speaker. Just give me 2 minutes. Hello. It's my proud privilege and pleasure to introduce the speaker for the evening. A brief bio sketch of her. An award-winning international speaker, author, performer, teacher and globetrotter. Baisakhi Saha works towards advancing consciousness on the planet, having delivered several TEDx talks internationally, spoken at the Women Economic Forum, UN platforms, and more such distinguished venues worldwide in multiple languages. Still in her teens, Baisakhi left India to pursue higher studies abroad in Singapore on a scholarship. Since then, she has not just traveled, but lived in the different countries, studying life through myriad mirrors of reality. From Asia to Europe, to Africa to South America, to North and Central America, she has lived with local families, eating their food, adopting their lifestyles, inhabiting their culture, imitating their costumes, contributing to their economy, negotiating extreme realities and belief systems, and navigating diverse traditions and religions for several years to answer life's most pertinent questions. Coming from a conservative family background, she had to overcome all limitations to fly. Currently, she is a permanent resident of Costa Rica in Central America and is visiting India for the launch of a new book, Life is Abracadabra by Hay House. The book recounts 21 magical stories from her travels across the globe that will make anyone perceive life from an altogether new dimension of reality and synchronicity. She briefly explains synchronicity, an experiential documentation of how to transcend the ordinary into extraordinary outcomes in alignment with our desires. It is peppered with true anecdotes of hope and faith, of magical coincidences and miracles. From a computing graduate to a marketing executive, to a German interpreter, English teacher, Spanish translator, to now an author and speaker, mysterious coincidences have led her from one place to another, contriving her to fulfill her destiny and leave a legacy. For more information about her evolutionary work, please visit her website, baisakhisaha.com. Thank you. So it's my proud privilege and pleasure to invite Baisakhi onto the stage.
Hello. Okay, so hello. Now it's fine. Okay, so thank you for that introduction, Avik, and thank you for inviting me to speak in front of all of you. So, as you are aware, today we are going to discuss the topic of Synchronicity and Synchro-destiny. What the hell is that? Okay, I will be giving this talk in English because some terminologies here are better explained in English. If there are certain concepts that you don't understand, please raise your hand and I can explain it in Bengali. Although my Bengali is not very good. Alright, so let's move straight into the topic. Okay, so synchronicity, it's a new dimension of reality that is approaching humanity. Now, what do I mean by that? It's a very interesting concept, and if you can connect with these higher dimensions of reality that I'm going to talk about in today's presentation, you will start living a very magical life. And I'm going to explain how that is possible and what this is all about. But before I dive into this topic, I want to ask the audience here, does anyone here know what synchronicity means, or the term synchro-destiny, what it refers to? You may have an idea, but if you would like to share 2 lines about your perception of synchronicity, please go ahead. Anybody? No idea? So nobody knows what this means. Okay, so the entire task lies on me to explain this very, very magical concept to you.
Related to synchronization? No.
Yes, it is. You know,
The virtue with which it synchronizes, that is synchronization.
Yes. So you might have watched those synchronized swimming competitions, right? And I'm sure most of you know what that is. So, of course, synchronicity is not that, but it is related with time. So, synchronized swimming is where 2 people are doing the exact same thing together or more, right? Like birds fly in synchronicity, in synchronized order, right? So, something similar to that, but not that. I'll come to it. So, why I chose this topic is because my new book, which just got published in India, it's called Life Is Abracadabra. I will explain the term abracadabra later, but you all might have heard of this term when you were kids. You know, the abracadabra kind of magic, where Ali Baba goes and says, "Open sesame," and this door opens, or Aladdin rubs his magic lamp and the genie comes out. So that is abracadabra kind of magic. Now I am saying that life is abracadabra, meaning life can be that magical. So let's see how that is possible, and today I'm going to take you through this ride, this magical ride of synchronicity. So what do we see here? What is this?
It's a bug.
Yeah, it's not a bug, it's a beetle. So beetles are very similar to bugs, but beetles can fly and most bugs can't fly. So that's the difference. So this beetle is called a golden scarab. So this is a golden scarab beetle. And the term synchronicity was coined by this great Swiss psychiatrist called Carl Jung. I'm sure you all must have heard of Carl Jung, right? Yeah, so he was a very, very famous psychiatrist, and he started observing this phenomena of synchronicity, and he could not actually define it, but it kept appearing in his reality, and that's why he coined this term. So what is this whole synchronicity about? So I'm going to tell you a little anecdote that happened with Carl Jung, from where this whole term came. So in the morning of April 1st, 1949, Carl Jung observed a figure in an inscription, and in that figure it was a half man and a half fish. Shortly after, he was having lunch, and for lunch that day he was served fish. And while discussing, with a friend over lunch some concepts, the custom of April fish came up. You know, we call it April Fool, but actually it comes from the term April fish. It's a French word. It's called Poisson d'avril. So April Fool is actually April fish. So later in the afternoon, an ex-patient of his who he hadn't seen for many months visited him, and she showed him some remarkable pictures of fish. In the evening, somebody presented him with an embroidered fabric, and in that fabric there were sea monsters and fish in it. So all this is happening in the same day, and Carl Jung was observing. The very next day, he had another of his former patients who came to visit him, and this patient started narrating to him a dream that she had had the previous night, where she saw a gigantic fish. And Carl Jung was writing a piece about this whole thing that happened with the fish for a larger piece of work that he was doing, research work. And this day, that a couple of months later, when he was writing this piece, he just went for a stroll to the lake near his house. And when he was there, he saw this big fish lying on the seawall. And he had been there many times before, but he had never seen a fish in that place. But that day, when he was doing this work and writing about this whole appearance of the fish for a larger research that he was doing, he saw this fish. So, what is synchronicity? It's a strange reality that you cannot define with logic, reasoning, or linear thinking. So, synchronicity is derived from two Greek words. Syn means with, and chronos means time. So, it is with time. And Carl Jung describes it as a causal connection of two or more psychic and physical phenomena. So it is a causal, nothing is causing it, it is happening on its own. And psychic is something that is here in the mind, it is in our perception. And physical is what tangible, what we see in our reality. So he is saying that it is a connection between the mind and something that synchronistically in the same moment appears in your reality. So you think of something and then you keep seeing it. So when Carl Jung observed this fish, the first fish he observed, and then throughout the day the fish kept appearing in his reality. And he had studied thousands of peculiar incidents like this before coming up with this term called synchronicity. So, according to Jung, simultaneous occurrence of a particular psychic state with often more than one external event showing up as meaningful propellants to that momentary subjective mental state. So it's not necessary that you think of something and only one thing appears in your reality. That same thing keeps appearing over and over again. So that is when he calls it meaningful. So this is not caused by a physical action. They are not connected by cause, they are connected by meaning. Now, I am going to give you another extraordinary case study that Carl Jung describes, which will make you understand this term synchronicity even better. So, Carl Jung was a psychiatrist. He had a lot of patients, and there was this young lady who had come for some therapy. She had some problems in her life. And for a while, Carl Jung was trying to do therapy with her. But no matter what he was trying, she was just not able to receive any help from him. She was a highly intellectual person, graduated from very reputed universities, and she liked to think of everything with logic and reasoning and intellect. So no matter what Carl Jung, what approach he was trying, she had this bubble of intellectual defiance. You know what I mean by that? So for her, everything had to be intellectualized. And Carl Jung could realize that because she had surrounded herself with this intellectual bubble, she was not able to access unconscious materials. And so her therapy was not going successfully. So after many unsuccessful attempts to soften her rational thinking, he was hoping that something irrational would show up that would pierce through the impenetrable intellectual bubble she had caged herself into. And this kind of intellectual defiance is called exaggerated rationalism, which was preventing her from accessing unconscious materials, and it's called animus inflation. So, what happened then? Now, one day this patient had come to visit him, and while she was, in his clinic doing this therapy, she started narrating to him about a dream she had had the previous night, where someone had gifted her with an expensive jewelry in the dream, and that jewelry was a golden scarab beetle. So here I got a picture of a scarab beetle just to represent the jewelry. This is a golden scarab. And while she was narrating this dream to you, he was sitting in front of her, and suddenly he perceived a soft sound at the window pane behind him. It was a dimly lit room, and when he heard the sound, he thought it was odd. So he went to the window to check what was there. And he saw that there was this insect which was tapping onto the window, trying to enter their dwelling. So he found it odd, because at that time it was rare to find these kind of insects there. So he opened the window and the insect flew inside, and he caught the insect in mid-air, and when he opened his hand, it was a scarab beetle, which is the rose chafer. So this scarab beetle, it has a golden rim in front of its head, and it's like a metallic golden rim, which is very similar to that of a golden scarab. So he handed over the beetle to her, and he said, "Here is your golden scarab." So that is when he connected this external reality of a scarab beetle appearing in their dwelling the very moment she was describing the dream of a scarab beetle. And that's when her intellectual bubble burst, and then the therapy could be carried on with successful results. So you may call this, you may dismiss this incident as just mere coincidence. But this coincidence was not senseless, nor was it simple. Because of this coincidence, it ruptured the veil of rationalism with which she had surrounded herself, dissolving the ice around her intellectual defiance. And then her therapy could be continued with successful outcomes, because suddenly just this appearance of the beetle, ruptured this whole linear logical thinking that she was so used to. So these kind of coincidences, when they happen in our lives, we can't really explain them. It's a momentary thing, and in that moment we are like, what was that? It's just a coincidence. And as I said before, these coincidences are connected by meaning rather than cause. So there is this thing, we have this cause and effect theory, that everything that causes, has an effect, and every cause is caused by something. Everything is caused by something, right? But you is saying that when a synchronicity happens, it doesn't have a physical cause. But right now, this is the question. Is it totally acausal, or perhaps there is a mental cause causing this synchronicity to appear in our reality? So here is the question. Now, when these external physical things appear in our reality, that reflects our subjective mental state of that moment? Is it because our thoughts are creating that reality? Or is it because we had a premonition about something that was about to happen and we thought about it, or we started thinking about it and then it appeared? So Jung was uncertain about publishing his work because in those days, this was so many years ago, like 70, 80 years ago, conventional scientific assessment could not accept this kind of phenomena or give it any kind of research. So Jung made an indistinct yet a very daring claim with respect to the principles of traditional science, that something perceived by a spectator, which is anybody, can at the same time be characterized by an external episode. And he of course did not rush to draw his conclusions as to why such coincidences occur. So it is left up to us to give meaning to these synchronicities or coincidences when they appear in our lives. So we all know about this famous guy, Nikola Tesla, this inventor and futurist. He says that the day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than all the previous centuries of its existence. Now, we cannot wait for science to define our experiences for us or approve of our individual realities. We have to live our realities, we have to live our lives right here, right now, and resolve our problems, make sense of reality, find meaning in our existence, find our life purpose while scientists catch up with their definition and explanation of the mysterious. So, what synchronicities mean, you have to discover it for yourself in your life. We still know very little about the world we live in. Just a question, can you read what is written on the slides, or is it too small? You can read, okay, fine. So now here is the thing. Why would any sensible, sentient being depart from the sound ground of logic and reasoning and plunge into this bottomless chasm of mystery and paradox? Why would anyone deviate from that which can be proven, which can be seen, which can be touched, and instead seek the unseen, the unknown? Because synchronicities are mysterious. It is not something you can validate with someone else. So why would you delve deeper into these concepts? Because spiritual growth happens when you have the courage to deviate from the norms, from logic and reasoning, and plunge into the abyss of mystery. That is when you connect with infinity and you dance with divinity and you have a taste of eternity. So in the moment that a synchronicity occurs, see, we live in an illusion. Life, this physical life form is an illusion, and we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator, the Source. And when a synchronicity happens, momentarily, the curtain, the veil is lifted, and suddenly you perceive a larger reality. You have a sense of timelessness, or something magical happened, and that's when you have a glimpse of your true nature, of who you really are. So, the yearning for spiritual truth is such that you must leave your comfort zone of rationality and practicality. Quit relying on the seen or proven, and instead take the side street, the dark alleys, the shadowy lanes of mystery and infinity. And that's when you can have an experience of your own divinity. So, that which is spiritual must be learned by the self without proof or validation. Now, there is no method to prove these things, at least as of now. And if you want to find the truth behind these kind of synchronicities, you have to find your own, create your own experience around them. So it is futile to search for proofs, and when you try to prove these things to someone else, you are not really convincing anybody but convincing yourself. You are trying to orient yourself around this phenomena that is happening to you. So it's a grand universe, it's a chaotic universe full of paradoxes and divine dichotomies where contradicting things exist simultaneously. And the only way that you can make sense of any of this is when you start noticing these synchronicities, because in those moments you feel this internal guidance telling you about your true nature, about your life purpose, about your divinity. And somehow when you see, what most people do is when these things occur to us, we just dismiss it as a random coincidence. And when we do that, we do a disservice to ourselves, because see, we have a free will here on earth. So synchronicity is like your higher self is sending a message to the little self that is incarnated into this physical life here on earth. And when you choose to ignore this synchronicity, it will just recede past. I mean, it will pass you by, it will recede into your past without creating a single ripple in your field of reality. However, if you take note of it in that moment, and if you pursue the thought that you were having in that moment, then these synchronicities start multiplying, and you start experiencing more and more and more synchronicities, and they become so frequent and sometimes even coherent that it just blows your mind. Anyways, I will come to it slightly later. So once you become aware, as I said, you become aware of these synchronicities as your guidance mechanism, you can figure out what is your personal truth in that moment. Now, there is no absolute truth in the universe. We all have our own filters. We are each unique like a snowflake, and each of us have a unique perception and experience of life. So these synchronicities don't happen to a large number of people at the same time. So when it is happening to you, you cannot even validate it with a friend or with someone else. It is a very personal thing that is happening to you based on your desires, based on your perception of life, and you have to figure out what it means. And many people may just become afraid of it, or they may think, oh, it's just a coincidence. But if you start taking heed, one synchronicity, then another, it will keep happening, and what happens is your higher self, or the deeper part of our mind, the subconscious mind, it starts sending signals to the surface consciousness, and it creates passageways of communication between you and your higher self. And then suddenly life becomes magical, because synchronicities start placing circumstances and events in your reality which are in alignment with the desire in your heart, the desire in your soul. And when it happens, you will know that it is in alignment with your desire. You take a step towards that, whatever the synchronicity indicating, and more synchronicities happen. And this is how you start entering a larger field of intelligence, or what I call a higher dimension of reality. So the signs, the guidance, the path will be unique to each individual, and it is so mind-boggling that you have to remind yourself that it is all real. So what this does is it awakens a magical part of yourself that knows that you can create your own creation. So suddenly you start experiencing yourself as the creator of your own reality. And you realize that that which is loved by you is loved, and that which is not loved by you remains unloved. That which you forgive is forgiven. That which you don't forgive remains unforgiven. So suddenly you start experiencing yourself as the creator of your own life, rather than being at the effect of everything happening to you. So you dance with an endless array of energy in the creation of all that is. And suddenly every pebble, every stone, every plant, nature starts to rearrange itself in a way that you start perceiving more and more synchronistic events. So it could be that your totemic animal can show up, or to send you a message in a moment that you are deeply thinking about something, or maybe a butterfly shows up, confirming maybe you are thinking of a loved one who has passed away, and in that moment you see a hummingbird that comes and pecks on your window. So how do these things happen? So the entire energy of creation is moving around your thoughts and perceptions of reality. And when you start acknowledging these, seemingly indistinct coincidences, they start becoming meaningful and they start speaking to you. I'm talking from experience. I will come to that part later once I finish talking about what synchronicity is all about. So right now on the planet, with the internet that has come, knowledge, information is spreading like wildfire. More and more people are coming into awareness of synchronicities, and it is opening a new portal of understanding in human consciousness. So what is happening? Human beings have started to intuit higher dimensions of reality which are beyond our 3D physical perception. And this kind of magic can only be understood in the abyss of midair. So when you are willing to hang in midair without any proof, and you're willing to take that risk, only that is when you can experience this magical phenomena of synchronicity. So an open spirit that is willing to receive the creative flow of the universe starts to navigate these synchronicities in a meaningful way. And that is why I say that you should not solely rely on the perception of authorities like scientists and doctors, because scientists and doctors, they examine what they see, the physical. But this whole thing is happening in the intangible realm, in the non-physical. So it is the non-physical, when that energy condenses and focuses with certain vibrations and frequencies, is when it creates physical matter. So it is, you can get advice from these authorities, but you are the sole authority of your own sacred life. And when you can courageously embrace the mystery of infinity in your heart, as surely as you embrace the uncharted feelings of love. So when you fall in love with someone, or when you feel this strong attraction towards someone, there is nothing logical or rational behind that experience. It's a feeling. It speaks to you and you feel it. You know it for sure that you feel this. So what is that feeling? So synchronicity is the same. When you can embrace this mystery of infinity in your heart, that is when you can enter this magical realm of synchronicity, and it guides you and takes you to your true destiny, the path where you feel the most fulfilled in life. And that can avoid a lot of the lower density vibration experiences which most people have, like accidents and diseases and pandemics, and that is a very dense vibration where humanity has forgotten who it really is, People have forgotten their true power, their true nature. And I say when you have a disease, it's because you are separate from your true self, that you have not found the power that exists inside you. The power that has created the disease can also heal the disease. But how will you do that? How will you know that you have the power to heal the disease when doctors are just giving you all these medicines and giving you a death sentence saying, hey, you have this cancer and you are going to die, you have 8 months to live. Who is that doctor to tell you that you have 8 months to live? It's because you have lost your own power, you have lost touch with your own true nature, is when you go to a doctor and you start believing the diagnosis that doctor gives. So once you can understand this whole concept of synchronicity, you will fall less sick. I'm not saying that because we all are in a physical life, so negative experiences will always happen to you, but it will be less and less. So I want to say this, you may have been told that you should heed the voice of authority, but you are in fact the governing authority of your own sacred life. You know what you crave, what you yearn and long for. Take note of those cravings, those desires, those hungers for intimacy with the beloved, for oneness with the infinite creator, for clarity and guidance on your life path that will cause your learning, growth and spiritual evolution. So, synchronicity is the way that your higher self, so imagine that we all come from this intangible, infinite realm which is full of energy and consciousness. And when you focus that energy, you become this little self in this little body, incarnated into one physical lifetime, right here, right now. And you have this whole higher self which is guiding you. You are never alone in this world. Sometimes when we are not in relationships, the people we love the most leave us. We may feel very lonely, we may feel alone, that nobody cares about us, nobody loves us. But if you connect with this higher guidance, your higher self, it is always with you. It is guiding your path, what you came here on life to do. And if you follow that inner guidance, then you will not have the other deterrents. It will be more like the path of least resistance, where you will have less diseases, less accidents. And when other people would tell you that, they are suffering from this, they are suffering from, somehow it will not sit with you, because you know that there is a way to come out of it. So synchronicity is a heart language, and a synchronicity shows up in your life at a particular moment to accentuate a particular train of thought, deepen our perception of that moment, and remind the surface consciousness of your life purpose. The veil that is surrounding us, we are born into forgetfulness. We come into this world, we forget who we are, conditioned into the culture we are born into, we are given a name, we are given a religion, and the rest of our lives we spend defending that culture, defending that religion, without really knowing who we truly are. And it depends on which society, which culture you are born into, and the god of that culture will become your god. So, we humans have it all backwards. We spend our whole lives in defending concepts and definitions of God that are not even real. So, what happens is, when you take note of these synchronicities, they start speaking to your heart directly, and it helps you construct a personal store of intelligence. And whenever you are faced with more life challenges, you can tune into your own heart for the answers, for how to get unstuck in those life situations, rather than going to someone who has no idea what is going on in your life or what is going on inside of you. So just on a broader perspective, the divine or the creator is basically seeking itself in its own experience. And the creator wants to know itself. How the creator will know of its own divinity? The creator has created us in the image and likeness of the creator. So when we accomplish a big feat, when we do something grand, we unleash that power of divinity which is inside us. And that is when the creator has an experience of itself. So you are the seeker having an experience of yourself because you are creating your own life. And all the people, the situations, the circumstances that appear, that show up in your life are like myriad mirrors of reality which is showing you who you really are. So now imagine if you have a limited perception of yourself. Let's say you grew up in a family where you never felt loved. You had to behave in a certain way to be in the good books of your parents. And you wanted their approval and their acceptance and their love so much that you constructed this personality where you became people pleasing and you started pleasing everybody around you so they would love you. And in that process, you lost your own soul expression, who you really are. Then as you grow up, you will have a hard time in relationships because you will want to please everybody and you will lose your authenticity. And these kind of people, I'm just giving one example, either they will grow up and get cancer or they will be in relationships with narcissistic partners who will keep taking from them, and this person will keep giving because this person has learned to people please, and this person has learned that is the only way to get other people's love. Now why is this reality showing up? Now for this person, the external reality is very painful because this person meets abusers in relationships, or this person gets a terminal disease like cancer, which is very painful to navigate because this person has a very painful concept of himself or herself that I am not good enough or I am not lovable. Now the external reality that shows up is actually reflecting back to us our own internal vibrations. So through synchronicity, what happens? Let's say you are this little soul lost in this physical life and you don't know how to come out of it, or you don't know, why you are having such a painful life experience. That's when your higher self will try to send you messages, your higher self will try to communicate with you, and momentarily you will receive these synchronicities. So in that moment, you have a higher perception. You think of something, it appears in your reality. What is that? Oh, that's just a coincidence? No, there is more to that. So when you have this higher perception of infinity, suddenly you know that you are bigger than who you think you are. You are bigger than that small definition in which you have caged yourself. Or this 9-to-5 job, or this limited lifestyle where you have thought, okay, this is all there is to life. Okay, I have already gone through this, so I will just skip this slide. As I said before, your synchronicities will be unique to you, and it is something that will happen based on your desires, your dreams, your wishes, wants, and even an indistinct form of desire where you just have a desire and you don't know, like it's just a wish. Even that desire will bring up some kind of synchronicity in your life. Now you have the choice to follow that or to ignore it and continue in the everyday mayhem of daily life. And of course your synchronicities will be different from others' synchronicities because you don't think and feel the same way as another does, right? So the more groomed is your energy, the more how to say, the more groomed is your desire, the more synchronicities will show up in your life. Now, this is a very common synchronicity, 1111. How many of you at some point of your life have seen these 1111 appearing on your watch, or many people see this. Anybody here who has seen? You have? Okay, you have. So suddenly it's not you are waiting for the watch when it will turn 1111. Suddenly you look at the watch and you are like, oh, it's 1111. A lot of people are having this experience. They are seeing these numbers. It can be other synchronous repeating numbers like 999 or 333, 444, depending on what number speaks to you again. So in this case, there is an aspect of an individual mind, which is you, which is in communion with the mass mind. So this 1111 experience is happening to a lot of people across the whole world. And this appearance of 1111 can therefore have a broader significance than just a personal meaning to you. Still, how you perceive that moment is unique to you. And although many people see 1111, to each that repeating 1111 number speaks differently. And how do you take note of these synchronicities? So in the moment a synchronicity happens, retrace your thought and think, what was I thinking in that moment? So suddenly your higher self signals to you that pursue that train of thought. It will probably lead you to the answer that you are seeking in your life. Maybe you're stuck at something, you have a problem, and suddenly you find a solution. And synchronicities don't just appear as numbers or a totemic animal. It can appear in a dream. So you may have a problem and you may have a dream about that problem and you find a solution to that problem. So that is also a synchronicity. That is again your higher self or your subconscious mind communicating to the surface consciousness, and it actually gives you answers to your life problems. And there is another kind of synchronicity that repeats over several lifetimes. So sometimes what happens, let's say a particular soul has taken on a particular journey or a particular mission, and this one kind of synchronicity keeps appearing in that person's life over different lifetimes, and that kind of synchronicity is called a deja vu. I'm sure most of you here have heard of the term deja vu. So when you are having a deja vu, it is also a moment of synchronicity to perceive that moment, what exactly happened, and this is probably something that is happening to you over several lifetimes, because in a deja vu you have a feeling that I have been here before. It's a familiar moment. And what is that familiar moment? You have never been here before. This thing hasn't happened before. So why do you have this feeling that this has happened before? So it is probably coming from another lifetime, or you have seen this in a dream, in a precognitive dream, and now you are passing through it in your physical life and you have this feeling of deja vu. There is no objective observation of anything by anyone. The observer always affects the observed, and thusly your reality is defined. So we rely so much on science and logic and reasoning that we forget to tune in to this inner voice that is constantly speaking to us. And if we tune into that, we will be guided on our life path, and we have each come here to create our own paintings, to create our own masterpiece. I always give this example, let's say you are born into this culture, this Indian culture, and your mother wants you to be a doctor, your father wants you to be an engineer, your teacher wants you to be a IT graduate, and you want to be a rock star. So how do you give birth to this rock star if you listen to everyone around you? So these people are painting your reality with the brushes of their thoughts, their perceptions, and they are projecting it onto your reality. You will never be able to give birth to this rock star if you listen to all these noises around you. And maybe you will take on a normal job, you will make a lot of money, but it will never give you true satisfaction because you have not given birth to that rock star. And you will grow up, you will go to music concerts, you will see other rock stars performing, and something inside will keep speaking to you. But as you grow up and you pass through life, you pass more and more years, that dream will, be dead somewhere in your psyche, and you will maybe live a joyless life or a life with chronic ailments and diseases because you have allowed everyone else to paint the painting of your reality that you had come here to paint. So, I think I have already explained all this. So, when a synchronicity happens, don't try to rationalize the experience with logic or reasoning. You will find meaning as you connect with something intangible, something infinite that you cannot grasp with rational or linear thinking. And when a synchronicity happens, you will feel a sense of validation. It's as if a higher intelligence seeps into your conscious awareness of daily existence. And it all feels intuitively right, as a subconscious sense of significance bursts through your mind. So this is my quote. I say, logic is tragic because it has no magic. So if you can take note of the original synchronicity, what happens is it continues to branch off, creating bigger and bigger ripples until your entire life fills up with significance and each moment seems meaningful and magical as you find yourself one with others and the barriers between others melt away. This is because in the larger sense, we are all one, we are all connected. And still, we are born into this illusion of separation, and every person that comes into our reality provides us with a mirror to look into ourselves. So when you can allow these synchronicities to speak to you, then it is also a means of creating a link among all. So this is how you experience the oneness that you are with everyone else, and that is your divinity, because divine is all that is. So me becomes me. Now I will give you a classic personal example of how synchronicities have helped in my life. I will briefly go into more detail, but this is a very significant example that I am going to give you, so you understand how it works, because I have been giving a lot of theory so far, so let me give you some practical examples. So I was in Costa Rica, I was an English teacher there, and as he introduced me, at the age of 17, I left India after class 10. I went to study in Singapore, and then from Asia I went to Europe, then Africa, then South America, then North America and Central America. And I was doing a lot of foreign exchange programs, and during this time, a lot of synchronicities were happening in my life. I did not know anything about Jung or his experiments with the beetle and the fish and all these theories. I was having a first-hand experience of synchronicities, and I was lost, I was confused. I had no idea why all these things were showing up in my reality, and I had no one to validate that experience with. Yet those moments were so magical. Like if you read this book, Life is Abracadabra, which just got published, you will see how the synchronicities led me from one place to another, and Now when I look back, I can connect the dots. But that time I was only seeing the random dots. And yet it was such a magical feeling that I could not escape what was happening to me. Neither could I ignore it. Maybe because I was alone. I was living in some of the most dangerous countries of the world. You know, places like Venezuela and Nigeria, where they shoot you before they loot you. And so many times I was held at gunpoint. I was alone. I was a young unmarried girl from a conservative family, and there was no one to be there next to me, to protect me, to help me. I was all alone. And I found myself in life-threatening situations, inescapable situations, and I had no idea how to come out of those. And guess what? Synchronicities saved me from those inescapable situations. And this whole magical reality was paved, and only later, after all these years of travels, when I look back, you know, I did research on what was happening to me, then I found all these answers. But at the time when this was happening to me, I had no idea that this word called synchronicity even exists. And you know, I traveled years on the road in some of the most dangerous countries. I have lived on the streets. Sometimes I didn't have food to eat. Sometimes I ate shit. And yet, you know, thankfully, I never had to go to a doctor, or I never had to seek any kind of help because I could not afford it. I traveled the whole world and I didn't have any money in my pockets. Never had money, never. But how I traveled, this whole thing is so magical. That's why I want to share this journey with you, so you understand what was happening to me, and just the awareness of it can start creating synchronicities in your life. So this example, let me quickly say it. So 3 years I was writing about these synchronicities that were intense synchronicities that were happening to me, and it was a very personal experience, you know, that I was having with myself. It was so blissful that, you know, at times I didn't even want to go and socialize. Like, for example, when I lived in Venezuela, it's a very vain culture. Every weekend people go out, they drink and dance, and you know, they have this culture over there. And that time I was bombarded with these synchronicities from the universe, that I used to sit under the mango tree, which was outside my workplace. I was working there as an English teacher. And I used to write about these synchronicities that were happening to me. And I was writing it for 3 years non-stop, until one day I had a very direct sign, or what I say feeling, that I should publish these writings and make it into a book. Now this little self that I was very, very scared. I didn't want to publish this book, you know, I didn't want the whole world to know what is going on inside my heart. This thought had come, and this thought would not leave me, and I didn't know whether to publish it or not. It was in such a raw form. I didn't even want to edit it, because if I would edit these writings, then the authenticity of the material would go away. So I made it a matter of prayer. One day I was going to work, and I just told God that if you want me to publish this book, give me a direct sign, a sign so sure that I cannot miss it. And as I was walking, there was this crossroad, and I just stopped because the vehicles were passing, and I closed my eyes and made this prayer to God. And the moment I opened my eyes, this huge trailer passed by, and on this trailer was written, Oceano todos los libros, which means in Spanish, ocean is, you know, the ocean, all the books. And immediately I had a sense of feeling that there is a place for all the books in the universe, including my book. And this ocean had a huge significance for me, because I was looking for my true destiny. And I considered myself like a river. You know, the river flows across the earth, and eventually it finds its destiny, the ocean. It merges with the ocean. So I was moving from one continent to another continent like a river, and the ocean was my destiny. So when this trailer came, this was the meaning that it conveyed to me. But the little self is always in doubt. So I dismissed it as a coincidence. And I walked on. I was going to work, I went to work, I was teaching English, and it was an evening class, so I was teaching some grammar to my students, and that day I was teaching modal verbs. So modal verbs are like may, might, can, could, should, must. As I was teaching, one of my students just raised her hand and she said, "Teacher, can I give an example?" And I said, "Go ahead." She wanted to know if she understood it properly. And she said, "The teacher must have written a book." And I was shocked because she had no idea. That very afternoon, I had prayed to God and I had told God to give me a sure sign that I should publish this book, these synchronistic experiences that were happening to me. And she said it in a past tense. So this was a book that was already written, not a book that I was going to write. And again, I dismissed it as a mere coincidence. I thought, okay, maybe, I'm just imagining things. I was still scared to publish these writings. 2 days later, in that same class, I was teaching other verb forms, this time present perfect tense and past tense. And the same student in the same class once again wanted to give examples. She raised her hand and she said, "The teacher has written a book." And then she said, "The teacher wrote a book." I don't know why she kept saying the teacher. She could have said, "Pamela wrote a book," or "Sam is writing a book," or a book that will be written. She always referred to it in the past tense, so it was a book that was written, and it was a book that the teacher, that was me, had written it. So once you can ignore it, twice, I call it the appearance of outer intention. So I could not ignore it anymore, and I went ahead and published the book. And then my entire life changed. Even now when I look back, I think that I published this book more for myself than for anybody else, because this book propelled me onto an entire new reality. From an English teacher, at an institution in Central America, I became an international speaker. I became an award-winning speaker and author, and I started lecturing all over the world about my experiences, my journeys, about synchronicity, and a lot of metaphysical and esoteric topics. So you see, if that day I hadn't heeded to that synchronicity, I would have never published that book, and I wouldn't be standing in front of you with my second book on sale here and giving this lecture to all of you. So that is how synchronicity speak to you. And here is the magical thing. Like I was talking about 1111, the 1111 numbers. My synchronicity number was the number 9. So, I was very attracted to this number 9. It's a very special number, and I kept seeing it when I was in Venezuela in 2009, living in these 9-lettered countries. This class was a level 9. So at that institution we have various levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, up to level 14, 15, higher levels. So this was a level 9 class. And the timing of the classes were from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And all multiples of 9, if you add them, you will always get a 9. So my first book is called Magic 9. It's a 9-lettered word, and it talks about how synchronicities work and about this magical number 9. So here in this part, I'm just going to talk a little bit about more of my experiences with synchronicity. So as I said, I did not know anything about Jung's experiments or theories when I started experiencing them. And exactly when those seemingly abstract synchronicities started dotting my path. I can't even tell when was the initial stage. But eventually they got so intense and impelling that I began jotting them down, and what followed is this book. It has 21 magical stories from my travels across the world that will make you look at life with altogether new eyes. My life was filled with synchronicities and magical encounters that I like to call meaningful coincidences. So, meaningful coincidences that materialized impossible dreams, that disentangled unworkable problems, that got me out of inescapable situations and saved my life several times, and laid out in front of me a magical path to tread. So, as outer intention made itself manifest, I realized a larger plan was unfolding for me, leading me and leading me to live out my true purpose. And I had to take these next steps on the basis of these synchronicities, which was solely a leap of faith, and a childlike wonder to plunge into this abyss of mystery and allow the guidance to reveal itself. So, it is a path of the heart, and even so many times, my rational mind could not completely fathom or explain this experience that was happening to me. So I did not know what it was, but it was taking me on this magical journey where I felt that reality was literally bending for me. And most of us look at physical reality as this. I like to give this example of a stone prison. Let's say you are in a stone prison, and for years and years and years, people follow the same routine, the same things that happen, and nothing changes there. That is how we used to perceive reality as solid. But reality is not solid anymore. Think of reality as a liquid. You touch the liquid and you start creating ripples. So when you look at reality as liquid, then you know that you have the power to change your reality if something is showing up that you don't desire. So my book is called Life Is Abracadabra, and I want to quickly explain this term abracadabra. It comes from this Aramaic phrase abracadabra, and it means I shall create as I speak. Just like Ali Baba would go and say open sesame and the door would open. Or I shall create as I believe. I shall create as I do. So here I want to touch a little bit on imagination, because all the creation happens in our imagination. What we believe, what we think, what we do, what we say comes from the source that is imagination. So God is man's imagination and man is God's imagination. So imagination is our source code. It is our divine gift. If we can use our imagination, we can start to create the appearance of synchronicities in our life. So the source of this word abracadabra is actually 3 Hebrew words. Ab, Ben, Ruach, Akadosh. And Ab means father, Ben means son, and Ruach, Akadosh means Holy Ghost. So this word, life is abracadabra, it's not just some kind of meaningless magic. So this is the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It is the Trinity of our reality. And you can explain it in any terms, like mind, body, spirit, solid, liquid, gas, electron, proton, neutron, male, female, neutral, hot, cold, room temperature, here, there, and the space in between. So this Trinity, we call it the Holy Trinity, because this is what life is. Now, we are born into this polarity where we call life as a duality. So duality is like hot and cold. But there is a place where hot and cold merges. So that is what creates the Trinity. So when I say life is abracadabra, I just don't mean some meaningless kind of magic. I'm referring to this Holy Trinity, where all our experiences lie. If I am cold and I am seeking something warm, I have to go to the other polarity, which is hot. Let's say I am experiencing a very difficult situation in life and I want to be healed. What is healing? You know, we all suffer from these diseases and we say, I want to be healed. So, to be healed means to experience the opposite of an undesired experience, right? So, everything lies in between these polarities of hot, cold, and in between. Mind, body, spirit. It is the Holy Trinity. So, the moment you start moving from your extreme disease or whatever towards the other polarity, you will meet healing on the way. So I was experiencing a lot of meaningful coincidences that were coming up in my life as magical opportunities. I call them magical because there was no conceivable possibility to place those opportunities on my path. They just happened magically, you know. It was not something that I could plan and execute. And I was having these chance encounters with people who were bringing the solution to my next problem. And see, when you have these problems and if you don't have an extreme situation in your life, you will not have an opportunity to come out of it. And if you can't come out of it, how will you experience yourselves as unstoppable, invincible, unsinkable, unbreakable? See, we are here to experience our divinity. And life puts us through these extreme challenges. The higher you are in your level, the bigger the catalyst. Now, I call catalysts. Catalysts are people who will appear in your life and they will place an extreme challenge in front of you. And a challenge that seems insurmountable at face value. And then how you overcome that challenge? So sometimes we can't overcome it and we fall sick or we bow down to the weight of this challenge. But if you know that you have come here for that challenge, so when a challenge appears in your life, you tell yourself, this is what I have come here for. Then it becomes much easier to overcome that challenge, and once you overcome it, you start to experience your divinity. You become invincible and incorrigible, and then you become a person that nothing in the world can place a challenge so big in front of you that you cannot overcome. And it becomes a lived reality, it becomes a habit, an experience. So as I said, so I went from Asia to Europe to Africa to South America to North and Central America. And sitting in Asia, I was studying computer science. I could not imagine a computing student that one day I would travel the whole world and be an author and a speaker from just a computing graduate. And as I said, this thing did not, the whole plan was not shown to me. The path revealed itself one step at a time. And I always say that my path chose me. And I did not choose my path because consciously I could not have planned this journey. I could not have lived this experience had I not listened to my heart, listened to the synchronicities appearing in my life and taking action on those synchronicities. And then one door opens, then I take another action, another door opens, and another and another. And before I realized it, I was living this magical reality. So so this is me flying on the ashes of a volcano in Costa Rica. 5 years before this picture was taken, I had a dream of seeing a real volcano in my life. Because I was at university in Singapore and we had a lot of German students at our university. I was learning German as a minor. And one of those students had gone on a trip to Indonesia and sent me a picture of him standing atop an active volcano. And when I saw that picture, I had a dream of seeing a real volcano with my own eyes. And 5 years later, here I was in 5 continents later, I was flying on the ashes of an active volcano. This is Volcan Poas in Costa Rica. So from a conservative family background, I had to overcome all these limiting beliefs and cultural prejudices to fly in the direction of my dreams. Why I say cultural prejudices? Because I was a young unmarried girl and I wanted to live this dream and nobody was supporting me in this dream. So I had to follow the guidance of the synchronicities to be able to live this magical journey. So I always say that the path of your dream, desire, destiny is written, but you are the one who is writing it. So my book synopsis starts with this. I think people are afraid to dream because they don't want to be disappointed. You know, when our dreams are so big that we have no idea how to manifest that dream, we don't take action towards that dream because we don't want the pain of rejection, of the pain of that unfulfilled dream. So, but what if there was a way to co-create your dreams with the larger universe? And what if the universe responded to you in a tangible way? Can you imagine that? So I always say that the bigger you dream, the more of yourself you fit in, because dreams are the container of your soul. And dream does not end with death. You carry your dreams to the next dimension. So there is no age to dream. You should always, keep your dreams lofty, so big that synchronicities will start appearing to help you manifest your dreams into reality. So there are always 2 paths, 2 choices in life. One is the path of the heart and the other is the path of others' expectations of us. As I said, mom wants you to do something, dad wants you to be something, teacher wants you to do something else, and in all these definitions you lose yourself. But if you have the courage to listen to your heart, it will speak to you, it will tell you what you came here for, what will give you joy. For me, maybe writing gives me joy, but for you, maybe engineering gives you joy. But if you were born to be an engineer and instead you are a teacher, you will not be happy, right? I was not born to be an IT consultant or a software engineer, but that's what I was studying because that's what everybody was doing those days and that was the career that was respected. And then I manifested a crippling back injury, and 3 years at university I suffered so much that I wanted to commit suicide. So I am coming from that place when today I say for the last so many years I haven't been to a doctor. This magical journey started with a crippling injury where I wanted to take my own life. And then one night when I dared to stray beyond the limitations of my physical capacity, of what the doctors had told me never to do, that day I was spontaneously healed. And this is the first story in my book. It starts with this story because that was my first encounter with magic. And then after that, this person who used to wear a big thick belt around her waist at all times, I used to carry a cushion to the exam hall to put behind my chair because I was not allowed to sit on a chair with a hard back. I could not bend. I used to be an athlete. I used to be a marathon runner, I used to be a dancer, and I had to stop everything. I had put on so much weight, life had become so painful that even stronger doses of painkillers could not alleviate my pain. 3 years I suffered like that until I wanted to take my own life. And the day I did something that I absolutely loved was the day I got healed. And I'm not a doctor, so I will never give you a medical advice. You know what you desire, what your soul craves. But if you read the book, you read the story, you will know how these magical things happen. So many people who are accessing these higher dimensions of consciousness, they are receiving spontaneous remissions. So many cancer patients are getting just healed overnight. How is that happening? How is that medically possible? Doctors still cannot explain it. A few years ago, when I gave a lecture here on what happens after death, I was citing the example of Anita Murjani, who had had terminal cancer, and after suffering for 4 years, she had tumors this big size, lymphoma, that had shut down all her internal organs. And after 4 years of suffering, she had gone into a coma. And doctors had given her the death sentence that she would never come out of this coma. But she took an about turn, she came back into life, and she healed her cancer of 4 years in a matter of 4 days. And because she had a glimpse of the afterlife, higher reality, and the vibration changed. Her mind, from a lower frequency that it was vibrating, it suddenly went to such a high frequency where the frequency of the disease was not supported. So the disease disappeared naturally. So this is what happens when you start living this magical reality. It is not just some, wishful thinking or some fairy tale that I am talking about. I am talking about a lived reality. So now I will come to the shadow side of this. This is the last segment of my presentation. Now, many people will say, but I followed the guidance, I followed the synchronicity, it still took me to a negative experience. Now, what is that? You are telling me here that you should follow your guidance. All these signs are showing me that this is the person, this is my soulmate. Let's say, a lot of people can relate to that. And yet, when I go to that person, the person keeps rejecting me. So I followed the signs, I followed the guidance. Still, why did it lead me to a negative experience? So let me also explain that. Now, is it because the universe has a sixth sense of humor that it likes to play with you? It shows you these signs, it shows you these symbols, and then it takes away the dream from you, and then you are like, what? I followed my heart and I, banged against the wall. So no, the universe doesn't have a sixth sense of humor. What the universe is trying to do is align you with your own personal expansion. Now, what do I mean by that? See, we are not so small as society defines us. You take birth, you go to school, then you go to college, then you go to university, then you get a job, then you get married, then you have kids, and then you retire, and then you die. No, we are much bigger, much larger than what we think we are. So when a synchronicity happens, or when something in life is attracting us, and we go there and we have a painful experience, it is bringing up our dysfunctional beliefs, our limiting thinking about ourselves. As I said before, if you think that you are not worthy, you are not lovable, the universe will keep placing people in your life who will not love you, who will show you what you believe inside about yourself. Because this universe is like a giant mirror. It reflects back to you your own internal vibrations. So when you think I am not lovable, you will meet people that you will be attracted to that will not love you. And that is how you recognize yourself. So when you have these painful experiences, it's not because life is bad, that we should escape life, get moksha, never reincarnate. It's not like that. It's because life is showing you what is inside you. You look at the mirror, you recognize it in yourself, you work through it. You release that belief through self-compassion, through self-acceptance, through self-love. I always say that God loves the whole of you, not just parts of you. I'll come to that in a bit. So the universe mirrors your internal vibrations, so you can realize the dysfunction that is inside you and heal that wound. And at a higher level of the soul, you want that experience. Why? Because you have come here to learn, to grow, to evolve your consciousness to new dimensions. That is why that painful experience happens, so you can evolve from that little self, that little definition you had about yourself, and create a bigger definition. And then again something painful will happen, and from that when you emerge, you will become bigger. Ultimately, the painful experiences will become less because you will gain this confidence that no matter what happens, I can handle it. So life is not about getting that job, that car, that house, that girl or guy. You know, sometimes our desires are so small. So life bangs us against these walls to show us that we can be so much bigger. So life is about the evolution of consciousness and the journey of souls, the meeting of souls and the parting of souls, and what these souls convey to each other, these messages, and that makes life so magical and so mystical. So I will just come back to Jung a little bit to explain this part. I'll do it fast. What is the time? It's 5:30. 6:30. A long time. Okay. So I'll quickly finish. So Carl Jung also talks about this collective unconscious, which is the human shadow. Now, what is shadow? So shadow is these disowned parts of ourselves that we either disowned while growing up. Let's say you were a very curious person. You loved adventure. You loved freedom. You loved exploring new things when you were a kid. But your parents wanted you to be a good boy or a good girl and said, hey, be nice, don't go there, sit at home and study. Whereas you wanted to explore all these, your neighbors and go on the mountains and do escapades, but you were not allowed to do that. And to gain your parents' approval, to gain your friends' approval, you disowned these parts of yourself and you became a good boy. And you aced in your exams, but that adventurous side of you went to sleep. You grew up, you took a good job, and you are making a lot of money. You are even successful in your life. But you cannot give expression to this adventure because you have disowned this part as a child. Because you have told yourself that if I am adventurous, I will not be accepted. So life will keep bringing these experiences to you so you can start owning these parts of yourself again. So this is a matter of integration. And what happens is when we disown these parts of ourselves in order to be accepted and all that, our consciousness fractures. It becomes, into many parts, and then we feel scattered. We don't know anymore who we really are. And then what happens, that painful childhood where we were not able to experience our power, when we grow up and when we actually get power, we start to misuse that power. Now many people make the ego an enemy. They say, it's an egoistic thing, it's bad. See, the ego is there for a reason. The ego gives us our identity in our separation. So without the ego, we will not know our boundaries. Let's say I'm in an abusive relationship and my husband keeps abusing me, keeps beating me. If I don't know my boundaries, if I don't have an ego, I will keep experiencing that painful reality. So what the ego tells you is that, this is painful. You have the power to come out of this relationship. You have to find the courage to say no to that abuse. So that is why the ego is there. It is there to protect it. But what happens, you see, most of our world leaders, if you look at their childhood, let's take Hitler, for example, or anybody for that matter, who are creating a lot of destruction, a lot of damage. They have probably had very painful pasts where they could not experience their own power. So when they grow up and suddenly they have power, they start to misuse it and they lash out on others and they become emotionless because they are in so much pain. They want to cause that same pain to others in the hope that the others will know the pain that they have been through. So you see, in the end, that soul is still seeking connection and love with the other person. But by creating pain for that person, just to give that person an experience of what this person went So if we can understand this, we can work with this consciousness and we can release these painful feelings, and then this ego will not lash out. So this collective unconscious that Carl Jung calls the shadow, it's like those are all projections of us. When we can embrace humanity for all it is, then only we will be able to move on to another dimension of reality as a collective humanity. Right now, these synchronistic experiences are happening to some individuals, but not at a very grand scale. Although it is happening to everybody, but not everyone is taking heed. They are just ignoring it. Oh, that was just a coincidence. Again, maybe a coincidence appears after 5 years. Oh, that was just a coincidence. But if you take heed, then you can start to work through these, and it will not be easy, because we have come here on life for a roller coaster ride and we need that adventure. We have come here for that journey. If it was all smooth and paradise from birth to death, what do you experience? Nothing. You don't even experience yourself as anything. So all this powerlessness, anger, judgment, self-criticism, it comes into the human psyche because of the repressed self, because of these disowned parts that we have rejected about ourselves, that is seeking integration. So that is why we have these painful experiences, by the way. So that is why a synchronicity can lead you to a painful experience. But if you can look at it, if you can work through it and heal it, then the pain disappears. So there are 3 archetypal wounds of culture, because as I say, our cultures are very strong. The conditioning of our culture, let's say here in Bengal or India or any culture, let's say Africa, South America, each has very, very deep, strong culture, and there is something good and bad about every culture. So the common wounds of humanity are these 3 archetypal wounds that was explained by Dr. Mario Martinez, who is a clinical psychologist. This feeling of abandonment, betrayal and shame. So most human beings, you will see, they have at least one of these 3 wounds, if not all. So what is the antidote to these wounds? So as a child, maybe we were shamed for something, and then we grew up as adults, having very painful experiences. So when your external reality abandons you, let's say you are in a relationship and your partner abandons you, or your friends abandon you, it means you have to commit to yourself. Only then you can come out of this abandonment wound. So when someone is betraying you, let's say they say something to you and then they break your trust, and you trusted them, you don't know, like suddenly it's a blind spot. It's because you have to be loyal to yourself. Somewhere you are, maybe in the process of that relationship, whatever, you are abandoning yourself, you're losing yourself, you are not loyal to your true desires and wants. Maybe you are in a relationship where you are fulfilling your duties, but deep inside you want something totally different in your life, and you are not loyal to that desire, you are not loyal to yourself, so you will experience betrayal. And the same way, shame, the antidote to shame is honoring yourself, is self-respect. So when you respect yourself and you don't allow others to walk all over you, that is when this experience of shame in your outer reality will disappear. Until then, it will continue. So we have these painful experiences, and they even have temperatures, like when someone shames you or betrays you, it generates heat in your body. It's like pain and embarrassment, this feeling of shame, anger. So it creates heat in the body. You are in rage, you want to, go and hurt that person. And the feeling of abandonment is cold. You feel like, life has abandoned you, and you feel that nobody cares about you. So it's a cold feeling. So remember, I talked about the Holy Trinity, hot, cold and room temperature. So between this heat and this cold, you have to find the mid ground. and that is when you will heal. And most of these painful experiences actually don't come because you are bad. It comes because of the culture where you were born into, and that culture, that society instills right from childhood a lot of limits about who you can be, what you can do, and what you can think, what you can say, what is the possibility of your life. And all these cultural prejudices and belief systems are what creates these negative experiences in our lives. So there is this concept called epigenetics, where I say that diseases are cultural. Spirituality is cultural, religion is cultural, everything is cultural, depends on which culture you're from. If you are in the US and if you have a flu, you have to take the flu shot. But if you are here in India, you have the flu, grandma will give you milk with tulsi pata or haldi, and you will recover. That's your belief. If I get the cold and if I drink milk with turmeric, I will be healed. You tell this to someone in the US that drink this, they will run away from it. They'll say, what nonsense, I don't drink milk, I'm lactose intolerant. They will have to take the flu shot because they believe in that flu shot. Vaccines and medicines work because people believe in them. And sometimes, they wreak havoc in our bodies, in our immune systems. And I always say this, that the immune system is not a protector of your system, of your body. The immune system is a confirmer of your consciousness. So when you have an empowered consciousness, you will have an empowered immune system. When you have a disempowered consciousness, you have a disempowered immune system, which will go ahead and attract all sorts of diseases for you. Now, there is this thing, fortunately, called epigenetics. Nowadays, people have come up with that. Dr. Mario Martinez has done a lot of research about it. So, epigenetics is above genetics. What it means is that cultural and environmental factors are far stronger than your genes. So, just because you have a particular disease in your heredity, genetic, predisposition to a particular disease, it doesn't mean that you will get the disease. It depends on how you live your life, and also it depends on where you live. If the culture or the environment that you are surrounded with, if that is a dysfunctional culture, and if you allow that culture to influence your thinking, you will get that disease. But if you can come out of that culture, come out of that belief system, and as I say, create your own beliefs, because the mind needs beliefs, and when a belief becomes limiting, you expand it, you change it. So if you can create your own beliefs, you can escape all that. How powerful is that, right? So here are some life idiosyncrasies I discovered while traveling the whole world. What is right in one culture is wrong in another culture. What is polite in one country is rude in another country. What is respectful in one region is disrespectful in another region. I can give you so many examples, but one example I will give right away. See, when my friends, their parents used to come, I used to call them uncle, auntie, because that is the mode of respect in our culture. And these, my German friends, one of my German friends, I said auntie to his mother, and she was like, my name is Gisela, call me Gisela, don't call me auntie. So you see, for her, calling her auntie was rude, even though she was probably older than my own mother at the time. So like that, many things, like here, one example I'll give you about polite and impolite. See, if you go out to dinner with somebody and the person asks you, what do you want? The person is treating you, so you want to be polite and you say, whatever, I don't care, whatever you order, it's fine with me. Why? Because you don't want to put pressure on this person to give you something that maybe the person doesn't have a budget for. So in some cultures, the word whatever is polite. Whereas if you are in Africa, especially in Nigeria where I lived, if you say whatever to someone, it is very impolite and you can be short for it. You should never use that word, whatever. So this kind of extremes, when you see it, what you think is good, another thing's bad. At some point, when I traveled this whole world, I lost my grapple with reality. I was like, how should I behave? What should I say? What should I do? Because what I thought was good, someone else thinks bad. There are so many incidents like this that, I can go on and on, but just to give some small examples. So I realized sometimes the nonsense makes the best sense. So at some point, I just gave up the whole fight, this whole battle of being accepted, being polite, impolite. I would just say, look, I'm a foreigner. I don't know what is acceptable in your culture. You tell me, and then I'll be fine. So you see how definitions change, religions change, perceptions change, things change from culture to culture. And when you are, let's say, in one country, in one society, you think that is all there is to the world, and this is God, this is life, and this is all there is to, your reality. That is when you limit the definition of who you are. Thankfully today with internet and with all these influencers and bloggers doing solo traveling and all that, even sitting at home just by watching a video, our perception of reality is getting bigger. So for many people it's not possible to travel to see other realities. So by reading books, by watching YouTube videos, we learn so much about the world. But even 10 years ago, 20 years ago, this kind of thing was not available. Like when I started traveling, there were no Google Maps, there were no smartphones, there were no Uber Ola concept, and I didn't even have a camera with me or a cell phone or a laptop. In fact, after these years and years of travels, I never took a picture with my own cameras. It was only what my friends took pictures of me and posted on Facebook and tagged me. Those are the only pictures I have from my travels across the world. So at some point I realized, each culture is varies so widely and so wildly that I realized we are all making it up as we go through life. Right? And when one belief system doesn't serve us, then all we have to do is create another belief system. For example, in India, when a girl gets married, what is the first thing they look at? Her skin color. Right? Now if she is of a darker skin color, she is not beautiful. No matter how beautiful features she has, dark skin color is not beautiful in India and a lot of Asian countries. And when I was in the West, especially in Europe and Latin America, I lived in Venezuela, Costa Rica, and these are the hubs of beautiful ladies because they all do plastic surgery to enhance their assets, and every girl on the street is walking with this perfect shape, this perfect figure, this perfect hair and everything, liposuction and figure correction and feature correction, everything is done. But in that society, whenever I would walk anywhere, people would be drawn to me like flies. And I never understood because I never thought that I was beautiful. I was never told in my culture that I was beautiful. And when I was like, what is it about me that you find so beautiful? Because people will come and say, "Que hermosa, you're so beautiful." And they said, "Your skin color." They said, we would give the world, they put these sun tanning lotions, they go and sit under scorching sun and risk getting skin cancer just to get my color. And here I am in India using Fair and Lovely and I don't know what to lighten my skin. So that is the difference. When I was in Africa, African women are big, fat and round with voluptuous figures and all their curves are worshipped. So I had put on quite a bit of weight there because I was eating this African food which was cassava and gari and plantains and yam and basically a lot of starch. And I had put on some tummy. And I was so conscious that, I have put on this tummy. And the people there, they were like, call me boy because they can't pronounce my name Baisakhi. So this is boy, it is another curve in your body and it looks beautiful. So I found acceptance in another culture, not in my own culture. And you won't believe this, when I came back from Africa, the African sun had tanned my skin quite a bit. Like I had become darker than my usual skin color. And I was attending Diwali, that time we lived in Delhi, and I wore this sari. I like to design my own clothes. Even this, I designed it myself. I love, fashion designing is like a hobby. So I wore this beautiful cream color sari that I had designed for me, and it especially augments my skin color. Like darker skinned people should wear lighter colors. So I wore this sari and I went to attend Diwali. And this man, he was like my dad's age. He came up to me and he told me that, you look very good in this sari, but if only you had your dad's fair color, you would have looked so much more beautiful. My dad was very fair, by the way, because he passed away recently. So I never forgot that ungracious comment from that man. See, educated, civilized, intellectual people in our society talk like this. And they don't even realize that they are saying this because it is ingrained in their culture to look at fair as beauty and dark as not beauty. And I always say this, that I always find more acceptance in another culture. Why should I come back to my culture? People complain about brain drain. They say all these Indians, they do this higher education and then they go abroad and leave our country in the drains. Why? Because they get more respect, more acceptance in another country than in their own. Why won't they? It is human nature to go where they are loved, where they are respected. So if someone tells me in another country that I am beautiful, and in my country if they say that I am not beautiful because my skin is too dark, why would I want to be here? So this is how, and if I had never left India, if I had never left Kolkata, I would have spent the rest of my life believing that I was ugly. Because I am short and because I have dark skin. So you see, that is a limited belief that I have about myself. And I will keep meeting people who will reinforce to me the fact that I am ugly because I am dark, because that is my belief, my limiting belief about myself. This is how synchronicities will line me up with people with these painful experiences until I transcend that belief. And when I transcended that belief, I found myself in places where my color is more beautiful than the white person. And Latin Americans, they are not the white kind of fair. They are the Gora type, that Indian fair that we celebrate. Even among them, I was prettier because I had a darker skin color. So what I mean when I say you have to take out this garbage that you have been fed since childhood. And only then you can experience these magical things. And you will hit the blind alley, you will bang your head against the wall, you will, meet these dead ends, and they are there for a reason. They are rerouting you to your personal truth. So I always talk about this broken reality mirror. It distorts our reality. So let's say that our soul's light is that of pure joy, pure love, pure bliss. Now our higher self or our soul's expression, when it comes to our physical bodies, let's say we have a lens in here and it passes through this lens. And let's say this lens has a lot of bubbles. And those bubbles are the dysfunction, the limited perception. Okay? So when this light comes and passes through this lens, it distorts. And even though, let's say I'm attracted to a very handsome man, and I go to him, but he turns out to be a vampire. Or my boss turns out to be I have this job that anybody would die to take. and I am not happy in this job because my boss is a vampire. So what happens when the light of our soul passes through these lenses, through these bubbles of distortion, it shows up vampires in our realities. Now we have to see these vampires, recognize that this vampire is bringing out something, some unresolved trauma or unresolved pain from inside me that I am not conscious of. So that is what Carl Jung calls the collective unconscious. I don't know that I have a belief that I am not good enough. And when I meet these people, they show me that I am not good enough. It is because somewhere I have told myself, and I don't know, I'm acting. I'm acting in a way that tells people that I am not good enough. I don't have body confidence, I don't have, the way I approach people is maybe I'm begging them to give me something. So I don't believe that I will get this, that I deserve this. So that fear is communicated to them non-verbally, and they pick up on that energy, and they will discriminate you, and they will give the job to someone who has that confidence, who has the belief that they are good enough, that they deserve it. You know what I mean? So this is how it works, these distorted realities. So what we have to do is clean up these bubbles which are inside our life lens. And once we can clean them up, then the light of our soul will pass through less and less distorted. And our realities will become more and more magical or joyful or beautiful. So the best way to do this, to heal yourself, is give unconditional self-love. So self-directed compassion. Sometimes you see a lot of painful things in the world that you may not be able to directly create an impact or change it. So the pain that you feel by seeing that injustice, you give compassion to yourself for that pain you feel about another. And when you give compassion to yourself, you are changing the vibration, and somehow that painful reality gets resolved. So it's very interesting because we are all connected, this is how telepathy works. So you can, lot of humans have experienced this. People can do remote viewing, they can communicate with the dead spirit. There are so many magical things that happen in this world all the time. So self-directed compassion, even when you are, let's say, getting angry at people and you don't like yourself for getting angry and your anger is getting triggered, you are getting provoked. Now you know that lashing out your anger on someone else is wrong, and you don't usually do it with other people, but when you are with your own people, you lash out in anger. And you don't like that, but you are triggered, you are provoked, and in that moment you can't control yourself. Later, you can regret that why did I say such bad things to this person, I love her so much or I love him so much. But in that moment you can't control yourself. It is because these unhealed wounds are coming up, and what you have to do is give self-directed compassion. Give compassion to yourself for that anger that you are feeling. Because as I said before, God loves the whole of you, not just parts of you. And when you start doing that, when you give yourself love for an unhealthy behavior that you have, you start to accept other people more. You start to, tolerate other people's shortcomings more. And that's how you heal your personal reality. And you create a ripple in the field of the universe. Okay, so as I said, God loves the whole of you, not the parts of you. And that's why when you have a negative experience, suspend your beliefs and know that you can turn your biggest fear into your greatest glory. So self-expression, self-acceptance, self-love, and then you reach self-actualization. So literally you can do this. Go to a mirror and kiss yourself. Tell yourself, I love you no matter what. When you can do that, again, I'd say a lot of cultures don't allow you to love yourself. They will start judging you, you are not beautiful, you are not good, you are this, you are that. So in a lot of these cultures, what happens, even if we try to love ourselves, we can't. So again, we have to come out of that cultural definition. And the way to come out is when we connect with those synchronicities, we connect with a higher reality. We know there is more to life than just what this culture is telling me. That's when you can truly recognize this divine power within you, and you can start to love yourself and all that. So synchronicities are like baby talk from the higher self to the little self. But as you grow in your capacity to decipher this mysterious language of synchronicity, the necessity of such signals diminishes in your life. So when this little self starts to pay attention, this communication with the higher self becomes more and more profound, multifaceted and lucid, to the extent where you can talk to your higher self as if your friend. And then this happens. As you delve deeper into this kind of communication, it keeps growing in its complexity and translucence till the higher self communes with the little self. This is probably a reality that we will experience in our futures, where the higher self and the little self will become one. And then it will feel like this self-to-self communication, subconscious to superconscious communication will not be necessary, because all that will be left is the self only. There will be no difference between a higher self and a lower self. They will merge into one self. And that is when the little self becomes aware of what it really is, and becomes aware of it in experience, not just in knowledge. See, I can tell you, you are God, and you know I am God, but you don't experience it. So when you start, energizing this creation, this universal energy, you start little by little, you start experiencing your power, your divinity, and then it becomes a lived experience. That is when knowledge turns into wisdom. So this is the little self who has become the higher self. And love is all there is. We have come into this world to love and be loved, but to love is easier than to be loved. Always it is easier to give love than to receive love, but we have come here to learn both. And how can we learn this without making mistakes, without blindly rushing into the dark alleys and meeting the dead end and emerging bigger and wiser? So we should never fault ourselves for our failures, for our mistakes. Rather, we should applaud ourselves. The little self has so much courage to seek the passion and the blind alley and the modesty to learn from its mistakes. So passion defines you, and I just want to go to this last slide very fast. See, when I talk about love, most of us experience it in the form of romantic love. It doesn't matter if that love is reciprocated. When we love someone, we feel this blissful energy, we fall in love. So what happens is, when we fall in love with someone, we become in touch with our dreams and wishes and wants and desires. We are in a continuous state of bliss, just imagining the possibilities. So it is our true identity to live in a state of limitless possibility. And this state of being can only be obtained in the present moment, when we are conscious. See, most of the time our mind is either worrying about the future or thinking about something in the past. But this magical reality happens in the present moment. Synchronicity appears in the present moment. If we can take note of that, that is where all the creative juices lies. And when we do not let the subconscious programming run the show of our lives. So conscious mind is where creativity resides, and creativity is our divine signature. God created us in the image and likeness of God, and we have come here to create. We are the creator and the created. So the present moment holds our wishes, wants, dreams and desires, and it opens us up to myriad realities and infinite possibilities. It sparks creativity, creates synchronicity, and beckons a higher reality, a grander truth, a greater vision. It is not necessary that, maybe you fall in love with someone that the person will reciprocate. But just that feeling of love, if you can have it throughout your life, or as much, as possible in your present moment, that state, then you will be able to access these higher dimensions of consciousness. Okay, and it throws us outside of the programming. You may fall in love with someone, and it is an impossible love. It cannot happen physically, but in your mind you still feel this love. So what happens? It throws you out of all your programming and belief systems. Even if in the physical three-dimensional reality it doesn't manifest, it doesn't matter. You are still experiencing your divine state when this feeling of love happens. So if you can fall in love with life like this, then you will experience this magic all the time. You would need a person to constantly remind you of your love. So expand the horizon of your thinking. That is how you can access these realities, and this is our soul desire. Okay, and so just to compare, when you are in the magical reality, this happens. This is what happens with you. Synchronicity, heart talk, real magic, meaningful coincidences, love, signs guide you, destiny, conscious creation, connection, health, passion, purpose, cosmic guidance, higher self, path of the heart, dreams, empathy. And that's how you create a new earth, where you leave the programming and the belief systems of the old earth, and you are self-empowered. But when you are not in this magical reality, then this is what you experience: fear, disease, accidents, the herd mentality, which is collective consciousness, like the pandemic. The pandemic was a reality for a lot of people. But for me, I was traveling from Costa Rica through US to India. I was in the most affected zones during the heart of the pandemic. But I don't look at diseases as most people do. So I never took a vaccine, and my dad had passed away from an accident, whatever. I had to run from pillar to post, doing his post-mortem, getting his death certificate, this, that. And I was always on the road doing this, doing that. But I was never afraid, because this collective fear consciousness did not touch my consciousness, because I had already experienced a higher reality. So I know a lot of people who took a lot of vaccinations and still got the disease, or even died from vaccines. But it's not something to boast, but just to know that when you take a vaccine, you are putting a dose of that disease in your body. See, God had created your body with all the defense mechanisms it needs to protect itself through the whole journey called life. And your mind creates a disease, and usually pandemic spreads through fear. Fear is the currency of control. So what I mean to say is that a mind that is not at ease will cause a dis-ease in the body, because your body is your mind. There is no place where your mind is not there. The mind is not in the brain. If I have a cut in my finger, the cells around that cut will know that here is a cut, I have to heal it. How do the cells know that they have to do a healing job if the cells didn't have a mind on its own? So your whole body is your mind. And be careful what you are feeding that mind. If you feed that mind with garbage, you will get output garbage. So be careful of all this fear that they create. So some more meaninglessness, fate. Fate is predestined. You can't change it. Whereas destiny is the path of free will, the path of our desires. Unconscious reaction instead of conscious creation of your life. It's the mass mind. It's herd mentality, control, domination, violence. The old earth, manipulation, path of expectations of others. You are disconnected, narcissism, power struggle. So this is the common collective human story. And when you rise to this magical reality, then this is what you experience. Finally, my book. I hope if if you were inspired by my talk, there is a gentleman sitting with a few copies of my book that you will get a copy and read these magical stories because they will break the boundaries of perception of your realities, and it will change your reality. So this book has received 26 glowing endorsements from renowned luminaries and world visionaries. Two-time President of Costa Rica, where I live, he is also a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. He has given his endorsement of this book. He says, when you have confidence in your dreams, when you cling to the vision of your highest ideal, you can create miracles. This book is a testimonial to that. Thank you. I would end this talk with this small phrase: the divine in me honors the divine in you. And that is the simple word that we all Indians use to greet each other. It's called Namaste. So briefly, I know I have taken a long time to do this. If anybody has any questions, I will take very briefly some questions. And if you want to find more about my evolutionary work, you can visit my website baisakhisaha.com, and here you will find I have a blog and I have a lot of articles about a lot of these concepts that I explained about diseases, about anger, about emotions, about feelings, things that our society, our education systems don't teach us how to navigate. And they are the most, pressing things in our lives that when we ignore, we fall prey to all these heinous diseases. And if you want to know more about the book or read the endorsements the book has received, you can go to my website, baisakhisaha.com/life is Abracadabra. Thank you.
বাবাই বলেছে দেখি টালিগঞ্জ থেকে আসলে নাকি তুমি এখানে আছো নীলকামনে আছো অনেকক্ষণ বলেছি সবসময় বেড়ে যায় ভালো লেগেছে কিছু কিছু জিনিস নিজের সঙ্গে রিলেটও করতে পারছিলাম অনেক কিছুই তোমার সঙ্গে কথার সঙ্গে
Thank you, Baisakhi, for that wonderful talk. Very exhaustive. We wanted to keep a little time for question answer, but it's fine. These are very complex concepts, so you have gone into great depth in explaining to them. Thank you once again. So as she said, the books are at display, and a great thing is she is willing to even give you a personalized signed copy. I think that will be a great thing. So please go back to the. Yes, Amazon you might get it at a lesser price, but a personalized signed copy by the author is a priceless thing. So yes, today also we are getting a discount on the list prices. Please aware of this opportunity. Thank you. You want to ask a question, please? Okay, please do.
So, Baisakhi Saha gave a very marvelous lecture and we were all mesmerized by her lecture. But what I like to say is that one point we might have not noticed that a synchronicity was happening all the time she was giving a lecture. We haven't noticed it. আমি এখন একটু বাংলায় বলি। ফেলুদা বলেছিল সোনার কেল্লাতে, আরে টেলিপ্যাথির জোর আছে রে, টেলিপ্যাথি আছে, যখন এম হাজরা লিখেছিল। ও যখন সিনক্রনিসিটি বলছিল আমি তখন ভাবছিলাম সত্যি সিনক্রনিসিটির জোর আছে, কারণ ও যখন সিনক্রনিসিটির কথা বলছিল একটা ইভেন্টের সাথে একটা ইভেন্ট পেলে, আমি বললাম এই স্টেজটাই কেন বৈশাখী সাহা সিলেক্ট করলো সিনক্রনিসিটি বলার জন্য। ম্যাডাম আমি আপনাকে দেখাতে চাই আমাদের যে ফাউন্ডার ম্যাডাম এইচপি ব্যাভার্সকি, এনার জীবনটা অনেক আপনার জীবনের সাথে মেলে। ইনি ছিলেন গ্লোব ট্রটার, ইনি বহু ভাষা জানতেন, ইনি জার্মান মহিলা ছিলেন এবং ইনি যেগুলো ভাবতেন দুদিন পরেই দেখতো সেগুলো রিয়ালিটি হয়ে তার সামনে চলে এসেছে। এবং ইনি যেনার গুরুদেবের সাথে দেখা করলেন একটা পার্কে মাস্টার KH আর মাস্টার M এর সাথে, সেটাও সে আগে ভিশনে দেখতে পেয়েছিল, কিন্তু দেখেছিল সেটা আবার রিয়ালিটিতে এলো। এই যে সিনক্রনিসিটি, যেটা কার্ল জুং কয়েন করেছিল টার্মটা, সেটা অদ্ভুতভাবে এটা একটা ইউনিভার্সাল, মানে ইউনিভার্স উইল ব্রিং এনিথিং দ্যাট ইউ থিঙ্ক অফ। ইউনিভার্সাল ইজ আ গিভার। The cosmic consciousness will give to you anything you want. So whatever you want, you should ask the cosmic question. You will be that thing in the future. তো একটা অদ্ভুত বিষয়, আপনি কেন এই অদ্ভুত এই থিওসফির মঞ্চে এসে সিনক্রনিসিটি বলেন, এবং দেখা যাচ্ছে আপনি অল থ্রুতে যখন সিনক্রনিসিটি বলছেন, আমাদের যে ফাউন্ডার সেই সিনক্রনিসিটির উপরে প্রচুর কাজ করে গেছে। এটা একটা সিনক্রনিসিটি যেটা হয়তো আমাদের চোখের আড়াল হয়ে গেছে, দেখলাম এটাও মিলে গেল।
না না, ও যেটা বলেছে, যেটা যে এই সিনক্রনিসিটিটা সবার কাছে আসে, কিন্তু সবাই পড়তে পারে, রিলেট করতে পারে, সেটাই হচ্ছে কথা। এটা আসে কিন্তু প্রত্যেকের কাছে, কিন্তু somehow or other we miss it. সেই জন্য সেইটা যে পড়তে পারবে
দ্যাট ইজ এক্স্যাক্টলি সেটাই আমি পুরো শুরুতেই আমি জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম সিনক্রোনিসিটি শব্দটার মানে কি জানি, অ্যান্ড নোবডি নিউ ইট। কারণ এই জিনিসটা সবার সাথে হয়। উই আর অল ডিভাইন বিইংস, আমরা তো সবাই এখানে পৃথিবীতে। গড আমার ভেতরে যে শক্তিটা দিয়েছে সেই শক্তিটা সবার ভেতরে দিয়েছে, কিন্তু অনেকেই নিজেদের কালচারে বিলিফ সিস্টেমে জড়িয়ে এই জিনিসটাকে নোটিস করছে না। যেই নোটিস করবে ম্যাজিকটা শুরু হবে।
একদমই ঠিক। বৈশাখী যখন একটা কথা বলেছে, একটা স্টে ইনসিডেন্টের কথা, যে এই যে ড্রিমের মধ্যে, ধরো আমার জীবনে আমরা তো কত কাজ টাজ করি, হয়তো কোনো একটা ইনসিডেন্ট হচ্ছে কি হতে চলেছে, আমার খালি মনে হচ্ছে এটা আমি কোথায় দেখেছি, মানে এটা আমার সঙ্গে, মানে এটা আই হ্যাভ সিন সামওয়্যার, মানে এটা আমার কাছে হয়েছে, এটা হয়েছে, এটা কিন্তু এটা আমি মনে করতে পারছি না এটা কোথা থেকে। ইট কেম টু মাই ড্রিম অ্যাকচুয়ালি, এটা আমার স্বপ্নে এসেছিল, কিন্তু সেটা আমি ভুলে গেছি। কিন্তু ওই ঘটনাটা যে হচ্ছে সেটা আমার জানা ঘটনা, এটা একদমই, মানে সেজন্য বলছি, ও যেটা বলেছে ভীষণ রিলেটেড অ্যাকচুয়ালি টু আওয়ার লাইফ অ্যাকচুয়ালি। আর যারা একটু কনসিয়াস থাকে, যারা একটু ডিভিনিটির সঙ্গে কাজ করে, তাদের কাছে তো আসবেই বার্তা। ভেরি নাইস, আই এনজয়েড লট।
Thank you. I'm happy that you were able to connect with this talk, because it was a long talk, and all the people who were present here were listening with patient ear, and sometimes I do tend to go very long, because these concepts are so deep. It is not possible to explain with few words, and I think we as a collective humanity, we are ready for this depth. We don't just want to live that shallow life of this particular definition that society tells us that we have to do. So I'm glad that you were able to connect with this. গতবার আমি বাংলায় লেকচারটা দিয়েছিলাম, এবার আমি ইংলিশে দিলাম, কারণ অনেক টার্মস এখানে আছে যেটা আচ্ছা। If you liked this, please spread the word. This book you can read how the synchronicity started in my life and guided me through this whole journey and brought me here, and all these magical things happened. There are 21 stories. Of course there were so many more magical things that happened, but this was like the 21 big ones that I could cover. And a lot of the times you will see how a synchronicity in a dream guided me to the next move. So there are at least 5 or 6 stories where the guidance came in a dream. That is also synchronicity.
And one more thing, আজকে ঠিক মানে এই যে তুমি এই ওয়ার্ডটা ব্যবহার করছো না, জাস্ট টুডে আমি অনেক এই ডিভাইন লেকচার শুনি আর কি। তো যেমন আমি রামকৃষ্ণ মিশনের প্রচুর শুনি। আজকে পার্টিকুলারলি আজকে আমি রবিশঙ্কর জি, দ্য আর্ট অফ লিভিং গুরু, তো আমি ওনার লেকচারও ভীষণ শুনতে ভালোবাসি। অ্যান্ড উই হ্যাভ মানে ওই সোসাইটির সঙ্গে আমাদের একটা রিলেশন আছে। আমার লটস অফ স্টাডি ক্লাসেস আমার বাড়িতে হয়। আচ্ছা, যাই হোক, তুমি ভাবতে পারবে না এই যে তোমার যে কথাগুলো যে আজকে তুমি বলে, যে কোয়েশ্চেন্সগুলো যেগুলো ছিল, যে অ্যাবসলিউটলি সেই কোয়েশ্চেনগুলো বসতে, মানে সামওয়ান ওয়াজ আস্কিং হিম, এবং মানে আমার এত মানে মনে ছিল যে এই প্রশ্নগুলো তো আমি আজকেই শুনেছি, সকালবেলায় শুনেছি। মানে দেখো, আমি বলছি এটা যে কতটা মিলছে, মানে তোমার এটা এক্সপিরিয়েন্সের সঙ্গে ঠিক এই ধরনের, আর গুরুজিও ঠিক এরকম সুন্দর, হি ইজ ভেরি সুইট, সুন্দর করে যে এক্সপ্লেইনগুলো করেছে মোস্ট অফ দ্য তোমার সঙ্গে বেশ মেলে।
And just to tell you here that I've never heard a single lecture of Ravi Shankar or taken the Art of Living course, and most of the things that I told you were from my own personal experience, that later I found the definitions and the meanings and learned about Carl Jung's experiments. Right, so if you heard these questions just before coming here and then I repeated these questions on the stage, then that is a synchronicity in your life and you know what it is telling you. Maybe this happened for a reason and you will know what that reason is, and it will speak to you if you listen to that inner voice. Thank you. Anybody else wants to comment, share something? Please go ahead. I think a lot of people are animated right now compared to the beginning of my talk. I know at the beginning আমি শুরুতে অনেক ডেফিনেশন দিচ্ছিলাম যেটা একটু বোরিং ছিল, কিন্তু যখন আমি নিজের এক্সপিরিয়েন্সটা শেয়ার করতে শুরু করলাম তখন আমি দেখলাম সবাই মানে এরকম করে মাথা নাড়াচ্ছে। সো ইউ সি, আমি তো কার্ল ইউংয়ের ডেফিনেশনটা দিয়ে শুরু করলাম, কারণ আমি যদি নিজের এক্সপিরিয়েন্স দিয়ে শুরু করতাম তাহলে সবাই বলতো এগুলো তোমার আজগুবি, এগুলো তোমার সাথে হয়েছে, মেবি ইউ আর ইমাজিনিং, ইউ আর মেকিং ইট আপ। আমি কার্ল ইউং একটা ফেমাস সাইকোলজিস্ট, ওর স্টোরি দিয়ে শুরু করে যখন আমার স্টোরিটাতে আসলাম তখন দেখলাম সবাই মাথা নাড়াচ্ছে। তার মানে পিপল ওয়ার এবল টু কানেক্ট, আদারওয়াইজ নো ওয়ান উইল নট, রাইট?
I turned into a globetrotter, not a globetrotter, a very popular global speaker. The OTA, how it started that fast?
That's also a very magical thing. So I was this school teaching English in Costa Rica at different institutions, and I got this synchronicity to publish my first book, which is called Magic 9. It's 600 plus pages, you know, this thick, because I was writing it for 3 years, all these synchronicities and all. And when the book got published, the very institutions, the universities where I used to give these lectures, they were like, oh, you published a book, why don't you come and give a talk about it? Why don't you share the journey of your book? And at that time, I had started dancing. So in Costa Rica, you know, Latin culture is very bland. I mean, other than salsa and all that, there is not much depth, not much color in their culture. So I used to wear these Indian costumes, and I remember I didn't have those lehengas and saris, so I used to go to curtain shops, buy these golden fabrics and turn them into lehengas, and you know, even foregoing my food money, I used to spend that money on making these elaborate dance costumes, and I used to perform at these universities, big hotels, at the immigration, at embassies, and when I used to perform these dances, at the same time I used to share the story in my book Magic 9, because Magic 9 was the first domino. Magic 9 covers these experiences in much more depth than this book, but Magic 9 is in a very raw form. It is not edited, it is not published by a proper publisher, it was just an expression. But there in Costa Rica, it was very admired that our teacher is now an author. So when I started giving these lectures, I realized I really enjoy it. Rather than teaching some English concept, some grammar and all, I can motivate people to follow their dreams, to go on their journeys. So then, you know, I started getting invited, like the Women Economic Forum, when it happened in Costa Rica, you know, somebody told me about it, and you know, then their organizer came to know. She contacted me and she said, why don't you share the journey in your book? And that's how it started. So when I did it, I used to combine dance performances with book events, and slowly I realized this is my true passion. I want to tell people, teach people what I learned. You know, all my life it was an experience of truth gathering. Now is the time of truth sharing. So this is when this book has come out. So along with the book I give lectures and a lot of topics. Synchronicity is one topic. So I covered a lot of topics. Last time I spoke on what happens after death, the whole experience of death and the afterlife, and you know, with with examples, with proof, not just some religious talk or just some faith-related concepts. And a lot of other different kind of topics I talk on. And this has now become, I've realized that I love it. And somehow when I hold the mic, I also don't know what is going to transpire. Because sometimes I don't come with a PowerPoint presentation. You know, there is that thing is not there. But when I start talking, the energy flows. I also don't know what ground I am going to cover during that talk. But based on the energy of the audience or the capacity of the audience to grasp complicated concepts, then the talk flows. And it has happened that I have given really long lectures. In today's world, you know, when people don't have the concentration to watch a 10-minute video on YouTube or somewhere, there I am giving 2 hours, 3 hours speech and people are not leaving their seats. That was for me, it was my sign from the universe that this is what you are meant to do. You are eventually meant to teach what you learned. And just recently I found out, I don't believe in astrology and all that, never believed that. But apparently there's this very rare life path number, master number 33, and I happen to be that. So my purpose in this life is to teach. I will, thank you. So I'm going to break my fast with this tea. The first water I had was what I had from your this thing. When I perform or when I do something meaningful or give a lecture, I don't eat. And why? It's because fasting boosts your brain capacity. It makes your thinking clearer. So for a deep lecture like that to come, all the points that I said are not written on the slides. A lot of the time I'm just saying. So to bring the correct thoughts, it's good to fast. So this is my break fast. Anybody else wants to share something while I have my tea? You can come here and talk. Come. No, it's okay. You don't have to be confident. You are the little self. I'm calling the little self. Come here and share what you feel. Come. Okay. Here.
আমি এত কনফিডেন্ট যে তোমার মতো বুঝিয়ে বলতে পারবো না। But then like last few months I've been quite baffled by a lot of things, like খুব confusing ভাবে present হচ্ছে আমার কাছে. I've been looking for a lot of answers. I got answered seriously. Before attending the session, ashta in my mind was like এই questions গুলো চলছে like I cannot find the answers to these exactly are the problems figure out করেছি last 1-2 weeks, but then you answered them. Thank you so much.
So you have to get my book and you have to tell everybody about this book that they should get it, because I'm in India and believe me, I came to India because my father passed away and I came to sort out some of his unfinished businesses when this book got published in India first. So I don't know anybody here. I rely on people like you. Word of mouth, spread the word about my book. Read the book. I promise you it will change your life. Thank you for sharing. Come.
খুব সুন্দর বলেন এবং আপনার প্রসঙ্গ থেকে অনেক কিছু যেমন রিলেট করা যায়, অনেক কিছু জানাও যায় যেগুলো আমরা কনসিয়াসলি ভাবি না, এবং সত্যি লেকচার শুনতে শুনতে অনেক কিছুই কনসিয়াস মাইন্ডে এলো যেগুলো আনকনসিয়াস ছিল আমার মধ্যে। তো এরকমভাবে সমাজের যে চাপের কথা আপনি বললেন, সাংস্কৃতিক যে ডিফারেন্সিয়েশনের ফলে আমাদের প্রাইভেট লাইফ বা ব্যক্তিগত জীবনটা কোথাও না কোথাও ধামাচাপা পড়ে যায়। তো সেইটা থেকে মুক্তির একটা পথ এখান থেকে একটা সূত্র পাওয়া যায় আপনার লেকচার থেকে। তো সেক্ষেত্রে এটাকে আরো স্প্রেড করা, হ্যাঁ আপনি যেভাবে প্রেজেন্টেশনটা দিলেন, আমরা ঘরে যতজন রয়েছি তারা একটা কনসিয়াসলি প্র্যাকটিস করব। তাছাড়া যেখানে আসল গল্প সেইখানটা নিয়ে আপনি কিভাবে ভাবছেন যে ওই কালচারাল বা সোশ্যাল যে ডমিনেন্স আমাদের প্রত্যেকটা লাইফের মধ্যে রয়েছে সেটাকে ওভারকাম করা?
See, as long as you allow culture to define you, culture will become cruel to you. And you will never find your personal truth. So what you have to do is come out of that culture. And I always tell people, if you don't find acceptance about anything in your life, look to another culture for acceptance. Like I told you, my skin color. Another culture accepted it. So I know that this is not the absolute truth that dark skin is ugly and fair skin is beautiful. It is just what Indian culture believes. So if you have something dysfunctional, something limiting your life, try to find an answer in another culture. And for that, sometimes you cannot share your misgivings, your pain with everybody. Because if you go to, let's say, grandma or someone who is mired in this culture, they cannot give you the right answer. They cannot validate your experience. Let's say you are a young man and your parents want to get you married in an arranged marriage, and somehow you don't want to do that. But if you go to anybody who is from your society, they will all tell you, the majority will tell you to do that. But you want to do something else, you want to travel the world, let's say, or you want to do something, then you have to find your tribe. You have to start finding. Nowadays it's so much easier with the internet. There are Facebook groups, there are YouTube videos where you can find like-minded people, like-minded videos that can inspire you to live your personal journey. So before this was harder, but nowadays it's easier. What you have to do is find people who resonate with your thinking. Make friends with them, spend more time with them. Then you will find inspiration for what you want to do or what is stopping you from reaching your goals. But if you follow, if you go to the conventional people who are society's teachers, they may not give you the right advice and you may feel more pain. And the way to figure out what is your truth is to see how you feel about it. Because feelings are the language of your soul. So if someone is telling you something to do, how does it feel inside? Does it feel good? Do you feel excited about it? Then go for it. Because that is what your soul desire is. But on the other hand, if you feel more limited, more restricted, more confined, which will give you more pain, then you know that is not your truth and you should not heed to that advice. See, our society is least equipped to handle emotions and feelings. But we are first feeling beings before we are human beings. So our feelings are our personal truth at any given moment. Let's say I'm angry with my mother, or I'm angry with someone who is very close to me, or I am jealous of someone. I'm jealous of my best friend. I know she is my best friend. I should not be jealous of her, but still I'm feeling jealous. So what we do in that moment, we make ourselves wrong for feeling that way. And that way we fracture our consciousness even more. But that jealousy is telling me something. It is telling me that this is also inside me. That I can give birth to that same thing that I am jealous of my friend for. But instead I am, even trying to bring her down because she has reached where I haven't reached. So our feelings are always communicating to us about our personal truth in a given moment. So the best way to know what is true for you, what is right and what is wrong is to tune into your feelings. But there is a catch. Because not always our feelings are giving us the right answer. How? I'll tell you. Let's say what we love or what we want is for our friends to love us, for our parents to approve of us. So when I have to make a decision about what I want to do in my life, I may not even know what my real feeling is. Because in the end, I'm still, as a person, I want love, I want acceptance, I want approval from others. Now let's say what you want to do, your friends don't approve, your parents don't approve. Then how do you listen to your feelings? How do you get the validation? Synchronicity. It gives you your personal validation. If you have a desire and if you have the courage, to follow your desire, your higher self will validate you, that your parents, your friends can't validate. Because they are also mired in these programmings, in these belief systems. So either you go to a master who has mastered these programmings and who has been successfully able to come out of it, that person can give you the true, authentic advice, or you don't go to anybody for advice, you listen to your own heart. Your heart might take you to some places of negative experiences, but eventually your heart has the capacity to take you to your truth. Welcome. Any more questions? I'm enjoying this question answer session. You know, we said we are not going to have a Q&A session, and then we are having a Q&A session. You know why? Because if this was a formal Q&A session, we would think, oh, how much time it will take, much longer, so let's not have it. But everyone is still sitting here. While I'm having my tea, he has already replaced my cup with another cup of tea, because so I can stay here and answer your questions. So there is no formality. Anybody who wants to leave can leave. Anybody who wants to stay here and ask more questions, discuss, I am still here for a few more moments. You can go ahead and ask questions. You want to say something? You're smiling, so I thought maybe you want to give a compliment? You got all your answers. That's very good. That is my compliment. That is my validation.
Into the question answer session, but I'm just dying to see how you perform and then you tell your stories.
Oh, believe you me, all my performances are so raw. I have some dance videos on my YouTube channel, and if you watch them, see, I was in Costa Rica. I was staying with a host family. As I told you, I never had money. I was staying with local families in their houses. So, you know, there was a small space where I used to choreograph something and practice. This is passion, you know, then I would make these things, and when I watch those videos, I laugh. But there is a dance that is on my channel. It has gained 12 million views. And it's this dance, this Badi Mushkil, this Madhuri Dixit dance from Lajja. Watch that dance. It's so funny. When I watch it, I laugh. But just read the comments that video has got on the dance. See, we wait till we become perfect. We wait till we become masters, and we are robbing the world of our true soul expression. You don't have to be a master. Do what you love. Paint that painting, do that dance, sing that song, walk on the road like you are a mad person. I used to do that, you know, in Costa Rica it rains a lot. And when I used to come back from work to home, it was like a 1.5 hours walk. And I could have taken the bus, but I really enjoyed, after a long day's work, to walk home. And many times the sky would open up and it would start pouring, cats and dogs. Like 8 months out of 12 months it rains there. And I used to walk in the train singing some songs, and people would, you know, the shops on the road, they would look at me, they'll be like, she's mad, you know. But they didn't understand the joy that I was experiencing in my soul, seeing the rainbows and the lightnings, and all those were like synchronicities and signs for me. And that's why I was able to write these books, you know, do these, because I was finding this soul expression. So, who has stopped you from dancing in the rain? Take off your shoes, go and dance. People will think you are mad. Let them think. Be mad. Because when you are mad, you step out of the program. See, true celebration is mindless. When you are so much in your mind, you can't celebrate the expression of who you are. Celebrate, soul-liberate. Celebrate your soul. Any more questions? Any more expressions? You have become a fan of everything. Well, that is my validation to continue doing this work. You know, the joy at the end of it, prepare a presentation. You know, I am so reluctant. I was telling Avik, till 1 hour before coming here, I was making this
moment I entered the hall, I saw you. I felt you so attractive, so attractive, just because your skin color. And then I found this roses that is very much synchronized with our
I wanted to change this saree and my mom said, no, you wear this, you're looking good in this.
In our, when we felicitate our guests, it's very rare, na? We
Give
never
red roses. Another synchronicity, really, I love red roses. And nobody gives me red roses because unfortunately I don't have a lover.
very subjective, but
So I got the red roses and it matches my dress. So
so many lecture sessions, but never we got the
first time I got roses. See color. See color, fragrance, totemic animals. These all appear as synchronicities. Yeah, my totemic animal is an owl. So I'll tell you, I used to live in Venezuela. It's one of the most dangerous countries in the world. People get murdered on the streets. And my very first month in Venezuela, I was robbed at gunpoint. All the bad things happened, And a normal person would get scared and, oh, I have to leave this place. It's so dangerous. But for me, it was, I cannot leave this place because if I go back home, my parents will force me into an arranged marriage, which I don't want to do. So I had to stay there and sustain myself there and not live in fear because I know what living in fear can attract. So I told myself that I survived Africa and I am going to survive Venezuela. So before I did any of my journeys, I read this poem. It's called Ithaca by this Greek poet Cavafy. So 2 lines from the poem, it says, the Laestrygonians and the Cyclops, the angry Poseidon, fear them not. Do not put them on your path. If your thoughts remain lofty, if a fine emotion touches your heart and your spirit, you will never encounter the Poseidon if your heart hasn't set them up on your path. See, what it means is that when you fear something, like I said, vampires show up, you attract monsters in your life. And when your thoughts remain lofty and you start breathing in infinite possibilities, then that fear, the definition of fear changes. It's like false evidence appearing real. No, people have defined fear. So sometimes I used to play this game with myself. People don't walk in Venezuela. They either travel in cars or they stay at home. But I was poor, I had no money. Wherever I went, I walked. Even from my house to the downtown, it was a 2-hour walk. And I had to walk because I couldn't afford a cab. And there was no one to take me there. So what I used to do, I used to walk on the streets. And whenever I would see some shady characters, they would come in motorcycles, I just imagined that I was invisible. See, what I'm saying is atrocious. It sounds like fanciful thinking, but in my mind, I asked my angels to protect me and make me invisible. So when I cross the path of these shady people, I will not even be a target. And maybe I was not invisible. Of course I was not invisible. But my faith that I am protected, like, sometimes I would cover myself with this golden light in my mind. So I have a lot of imaginary, games that I play. So I have an imaginary apothecary. So if my health sometimes feels bad, I have this doctor's chamber where I will go in my mind. And there I have the medicines, like there is a medicine called panacea. If I inject myself with that medicine, panacea means cure-all, cures everything. There is a shot, like people take flu shot, I take a love shot. So I give myself that injection in my imagination if my health goes bad. So these games I used to play because I had no one to protect me. I was young, I was pretty and I was a target for many men, many people there, So these things, like my faith, see, what is faith? Faith only exists kept my angels awake, tirelessly working to protect me. And I knew that my angels were doing a good job, that I could trust them. My guardian angels, whoever, my higher self, I don't think. There are beings there who are protecting me, and they will warn me of an impending danger. Maybe I get an intuition, I get a hunch, and reality shifts, reality changes. Like I said, it's like liquid, just because there is something dangerous, even if someone plans to harm you, somehow that thing deviates and it doesn't appear in your reality. So that is where I say the synchronicities come, you can escape the accidents, the diseases that normal people experience. And so many times I had these life-threatening experiences. There was this time my house was robbed, 6 robbers came in, what do you call those, rifles. And in that robbery, my landlord died. And how I survived, again divine intervention. And I lived in the most secure part of Costa Rica. It's such a peaceful country. We don't have military there. The Venezuelan embassy, the Spanish embassy, the Chinese embassy, the president's house were all around. It's the most secure place of Costa Rica. In broad daylight, I lived in this house. It had 2 controlled gates, 1 alarm before entering the house. And the people inside this house, they were always afraid of something. When I went there, I only stayed there as a paying guest for 2 months, and I felt that energy was sick. And they were all doctors. One was an oncologist, one was an eye surgeon, the other was a pharmacist, and the other was a heart surgeon. They were all doctors. They were stinking rich millionaires. And when I lived there, I would feel this, and I just didn't like to stay in this house. I would always find myself in my friend's house. It just happened on the day the robbery happened. I was sick, I had some stomach cramps. I was sleeping in my bed, and I didn't want to go anywhere. And suddenly a friend of mine called, and she said, hey, why don't you come over and meet me? We haven't met in a long time. And I was like, no, I'm not feeling good. I just want to sleep. There is no food in the house, and I don't have the energy to go and buy food. And she said, we just made lunch. Why don't you come and have lunch with us? And she insisted. I don't know why, but she was my angel that day. She insisted. She said, boy, you come. And I painstakingly, I took myself out of the bed, and I took a shower. And as I was walking to the bus stop, her house was in another province. I had this half the mind of returning back to my bed. It was a very hot day, and I was feeling sick. I had cramps, And but when I was approaching the bus stop, I saw the bus coming from far, and the bus to Belen, that province, was not frequented. That was a Saturday, so it came like once in half an hour. So I was indecisive, and I thought if I use this bus, I have to wait half an hour. So just got onto the bus. I went to my friend's house. I had this brick Nokia phone. As soon as I went there, it switched off. I didn't have the charger. The next day, I charged the phone, and I had these messages from my landlady that our house was robbed. And I escaped it. But that was not all. When I came back the next day, the robbers had returned, second time to that house. So that was a very, very fearful story. But that also story had a magic, and there I explained the term security and safety. See, true security, true safety is inside us. No amount of security, no amount of bodyguards can protect you from any harm. You see, all the time, the whole world, how much America spends on its defense mechanism, how much they spend on their safety.
He happened in Venezuela.
6 months.
Really? That's amazing. Where? In Maracaibo? Caracas?
I was in Puerto Ordaz.
Puerto Ordaz, okay.
So which year were you there?
2009.
I was long before that because I never experienced so much of.
Yeah, now it's worse. So in my time, Chavez was the president.